Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. Thank you for choosing to listen to my presentation. So today I want to share about a topic on transforming education for deaf children with hearing aids and cochlear implants. So my name is Khairul Farha Khairuddin. So I'm a lecturer at the Faculty of Education in University Kebangsaan Malaysia in Bangi specifically. Alright. Let's continue. So in my presentation today, I will divide my presentation into 5 sections. The first part, I will talk about the debates in the literature about deaf children and the Malaysian deaf children, and then I will share a little bit about the research context, where and the current situation in Malaysia, and then I'll share about the methods I use to collect data and analyze the data, and then I'll share some of the findings I learned about it, and then we'll do some discussion. So basically, when I look into the literature, I learned that I specifically look into 4 main fields. I look into the debates in the inclusive education, deafness, disability rights, and deaf education. So I learned that there are diverse views and approaches to inclusive education. So as I learned, I realized that Malaysia specifically, we define inclusive education in terms of the placement of children with disabilities in the mainstream classroom, and there are many other countries that define inclusive education in this sense. But actually, there are many different understanding of inclusion, where it involves the transformation of school to include everybody regardless of whether they have disability or background or differences. And then when I look into the debate in disability right, there are also issues in terms of identification of disability and the possibility of stigma. So some people with disability refuse to be identified to have a disability, or maybe they don't want to be identified to have a disability. So this also related to the different conceptualization of deafness. For example, there are a deaf community with a capital D, where you find themselves as people with who communicate with a different language, which is sign language. So they don't associate their deafness as so they consider themselves as part of as an identity rather than a disability. So that is closely related to the debates in terms of communication and approaches for deaf children, because if we want to support spoken language, some scholars argued that they need to be educated in schools with other children, other non-deaf children, because they want to develop or model a spoken language. And some argue that if we want to support a sign language, the child will need to be educated in a separate classroom. So that actually some say is a conflict with inclusive education, where we want everybody to learn together in this education setting, the same education setting, for example. So these are some of the things that I learned in terms of when we look into the debates in terms of whether we should whether we should place the child in the mainstream classroom for the sake of inclusive education, or no, we segregate or we separate the child in a different classroom so that sign language can be taught. But also, for the past 5 to 10 years, we have increasing number of deaf children who have access to hearing aids and cochlear implants, for example. So the other debates that being discussed is about sustaining technology for these children, because these hearing aids are expensive and it's not free in countries such as Malaysia. Parents must not only you have to. There are some subsidies available, but maintaining it, for example, the change of batteries, ensuring that it's working, cleaning it, and also if it's broken, where to send it. Those are the things that are those are some of the issues that being faced by stakeholders in developing countries. So there are also debates about providing education is not just about schools and classrooms. So it's about preparing the child for future, for adult life, for being in the community, not just in school. So these are the debates and the literature that set the scene of this research. So in Malaysia, we have an aim in the Malaysia Education Blueprint by 2025. We aim to have 75% of children with disabilities are included in the mainstream classrooms. So again, as I mentioned, so Malaysia defined inclusive education as a concept of placing special education needs children into mainstream classes to be educated alongside their peers, either with or without additional support within the present school system. So this can be argued as contested with the inclusive education debates in the literature, because some argues that yes, we need the specialist knowledge, and also on the one hand, mainstream teachers just don't know how to support their children, or any children with disabilities, because they're not trained to do that. So these are the contexts. So I end up also, this is also another part of Malaysian context where newborn hearing screening has started to take place. So as a result, the age of confirmation or the age of identification have been reduced to the age of 1 month. So this is significant because it is closely related with the language and communication development of a child. So as soon as the child is born, we can identify if the child is deaf. You know, this is crucial because deafness is a hidden disability. So if we don't know that the child is deaf, we won't know how to support. So if the parents now are able to know that the child is deaf, probably they can start signing since baby. The parents can learn how to sign, or if they decided to use hearing technologies, for example, the child can get used to the usage of hearing aids rather than use it later on and see hearing aids as something external to themselves. But if they have been using, there are research that shows, if they have been using hearing aids since babies, they will likely to use it more frequently than those who use it at a later age. So cochlear implants have been provided to more than 600 severely and profoundly deaf children. So this is crucial because um, previously most severely and profoundly deaf children struggle with only hearing aids because it doesn't really helpful. Now, even severely and profoundly deaf are able to develop spoken language, and as a result, some of these children are reported to be in the regular schools. So, our education systems or schools are more diverse than we previously assumed. So, this is where my research come, where I look into the experiences of those in school, in the current school. What I did was I interviewed, and I also conducted some fieldwork studies, and then I analyzed this data using thematic analysis. Just a little bit of technical issues. Okay, I have to go back. So I went to 3 schools where I named them as Aman, Bija, and Cerdik School, and I interviewed like 37 participants altogether. I have children in the PPKI classroom, as for example in the Aman and Bija school. So these 2 schools have what I call a special education integration program. And these children attend a mainstream education program in the mainstream classroom. And I also have a case in Credit School where Caliph is the only deaf child in the school without a special education classroom. So what I found that all parents, regardless of where the children are educated, are losing time during the long and winding road where they first identified and when they first provide intervention, and then they have limited information to make a decision whether or not to wear hearing aids, whether or not to teach sign language or learn sign language, or where do they place the children in school, because there are just differences in children, so they have difficulties to decide, and other parents, for example, may have a different circumstances. For example, maybe the special school for the deaf is close to their house, but for other parents it's far further away, and also maybe access to affordability to hearing aids maintenance, and also access to intensive speech trainings are different between parents. So, but the other thing I learned from the parents are that they assume special education is the only um, the main support system for their child. So as soon as the child is identified to have deafness, they thought they need to educate the child in the special school, not knowing the implication of that. So, but the children talked to me, and then they said, I found that children who are identified and began intervention as early as 6 months have better language development, and then being included in mainstream classroom. So children who are placed in mainstream classroom help them to develop more and practice speaking. But I also learned that it's not only the deaf children are struggling with the curriculum in school, but also the non-deaf children. So I think there's something missing in the middle where it's not just about deaf children struggling, but also other non-deaf children are also struggling. So there must be um, something missing, or something that is require transformation in our education system. All right. The teachers, however, try to include the children at many different levels. So maybe if you want to say at one level they have painted school with sign language, for example, to cater the need, or to show the needs of deaf students in the school. But at special education integration program, the PPKI level, they even try to mix curriculum activities with the mainstream school, mainstream children, and then they have special education week, or they even have a different color of t-shirts and name tags to recognize the pupils. But at a whole school level, they are more in terms of general approach, where they include everybody regardless of hearing withstanding, whether they can hear or not. I mean, at orientation week, welcoming students at school gate. So these are some of the activities they do to include everybody in the school. So what I learned from the study is that the increased diversity in classroom, however, was not followed by transformation in the way schools and classroom are organized. So the physical inclusion of deaf children in mainstream classroom, um, without sufficient support, also promotes the child's exclusion from the lesson. So what is inclusive about this kind of inclusive education? And also, I learned that the availability of hearing devices, yes, has increased, has an impact on the choices available for the parents and the child, but teachers, however, were not trained, so they have limited audiological training. Children do not really gaining full benefit from this technology. For example, the teaching sense don't know when the batteries need to be changed, or to educate other children not to tease children with hearing aids, for example. So this child was bullied, or were being teased for having something on their head, so the teachers maybe probably not not having enough information on how to support these children in the mainstream classroom. And even for special education teachers in the special education classroom, the PPKI classroom, they are also, they have limited awareness about providing education classroom that is acoustically friendly. So, for example, in a classroom, they divide the classroom, the big classroom, with a divider. Like just the section, so the child can actually hear the other teachers teaching from the other divider. So that's actually not very helpful, because because the hearing aids actually emphasize every noise. So they end up not being able to use the hearing aids appropriately because of the noise. And also the teachers also not really aware that the process, the maintenance of the hearing aids require cleaning, for example. Um, so that they're lacking in that sense. And also, it's important to discuss that consistent and meaningful language and communication development among the children require multi-stakeholders collaboration. So, for example, if the parents decided that the child need to learn, the parents want to learn sign language, so everybody in the family has to learn sign language. So they even have to go and for example, go and meet deaf adults as a role model to so that the child can learn sign language, and the teachers need to improve their sign language skills, for example. And then the community, for example, need to learn some sort of sign language to include the child within the community. But also, if the parents want to um, support spoken language, for example, it's not just about putting the technology on the child's ear. The child needs to learn how to hear. They need to learn how to, the other people need to learn how to speak clearly and slowly, just so that the child can catch up learning how to hear and imitate, probably. And also not just about the parents, it's also about working together with the teachers on how to support the child's language, given the fact that because they are mostly delayed, and this delayed language, delayed in identification and intervention, and therefore language development cause them to have uh, a lower spoken language skills than the other non-deaf children. So these kind of things are important for multi-stakeholders collaboration, so that they can support the child. So as a conclusion, I conclude that there is a need to broaden the understanding. The education is to be about all aspects of life. It's not just about school hours. Education, as promoted in the Sustainable Development Goal number 4, it's about holistic and lifelong learning skills, because not just the deaf children, including non-deaf children, or everyone, they need to learn how to live in this rapidly or increasingly diverse society. People have differences, people have different needs. So how do we actually educate, or the investment that we put in our children to prepare them for the future? And but also we also need to remember about application of this initiative in middle income countries such as Malaysia. Also need to consider the cost and availability of experts to actually train the parents and the teachers. Do we have enough experts to actually increase awareness and knowledge among our school stakeholders. So that is my presentation. So if you have any question, you can contact me at kfk@ukm.edu.my. Thank you very much for listening.